Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, a show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have YouTube extraordinaire, metalhead, guitarist, and there's probably another hyphen we can put in there somewhere.
That's good. We'll go with that.
TaylorDanley. What's going on, dude?
What's up, man?
Oh, fellow Oregonian. There we go.
Fellow Oregonian, yeah.
Yes.
Fellow Clackemus Countian, if you want to be specific.
Yes.
Let's not be more specific than that, though.
Let's not get too specific. Yeah, we're good enough. We don't need to get swatted. But hey, man, it's good to see you and good to have you on the podcast. Been meaning to do this for a while. Maybe I'm wrong about this, and I well, actually, I was going to make a statement, and then I realized no, there's actually several of us. But I was like, not as many guitar content creators here as like when I go to Nashville. I feel like I run into 27 of them. But now that I think about it, we've got you, we've got Andy Martin, RJ Ronquillo is moving here.
Okay.
So actually, there's a little handful of us in this weird neck of the woods.
Yeah, it felt like there was a lot of people coming to Portland, like 5-6 years ago, something like that. Like it was just a lot of people were moving here, and it seems like it's slowing down a little bit. But I imagine in that mass of people, there was probably some guitar content creators in there somewhere. You know?
Yeah, somewhere they're making their way. Some of us were just here. We're like, yeah, I don't know.
I was here from the beginning.
Yes,
sort of.
Yeah,
in the area.
Yeah, same. Well, let's get the Taylor story. We spoke about it over Indian buffet several months ago, but we didn't record it. So let's get the story here. Like, when did you start playing guitar? Like, when did it grab you to the extent you're like, I know, I'm going to post this on YouTube?
Oh, well, yeah, the YouTube thing came much, much later. But it's just my origin of guitar, really. As silly as it is, when I was really young, my grandma was like a huge Elvis fan. Cool. She was like all about Elvis. So I grew up listening to a lot of Elvis and just inherently thought that was the coolest thing ever. I mean, say what you want about older music, the times, whatever, it's fine. But culturally, that era of music, Elvis, the Beatles, things like that, like these are the pioneering rock stars, and so I don't know, I always just thought it was cool. And she took me to Graceland when I was taught,
nice,
4 or 5 years old. Yeah. And I remember getting this like ukulele that had Elvis's face on it. It was like a really cheesy little but I used to run around the house and just jam on that thing all day long. And then I think along the line somewhere someone was like, hey, maybe we should get this kid a guitar. And yeah, and then I was kind of off to the races from there. I grew up in the 90s listening to grunge. My favorite bands among them, mostly the Seattle scene. Inherently, I think I listen to like a lot of Alice in Chains, Candlebox. Like cool Seattle band. I don't know, like I don't feel it gets enough credit, even though you hear the songs and like I was like they were on Dawson's Creek or something. But anyways, it's another old person thing. But like there's just I grew up in that. I feel like the 90s was such a cool era for guitar. Even though maybe it wasn't necessarily the greatest for metal specifically, but it's like you had like shred stuff happening, the end of hair metal in the mainstream, it's like sort of grunge, but that was also really cool for guitar in a lot of ways. And that's just kind of how I came up,
So, and when did you start playing in bands and realizing that you had such an affinity for metal specifically?
Oh yeah, okay. So I started playing bands like I was always trying to recruit my friends, in elementary school. Even I just wanted to play guitar and sing, and I wanted to be just like Kurt Cobain. You know what I mean? Like I think everyone did in the mid 90s. It was very cool. It's very chic, and so I was always trying to recruit my friends into bands, and I happened to find two brothers that one played bass and one played drums, so it was like perfect fit, and I played with those guys all the way from like elementary school through high school. We had a band together, wrote tons of songs, did fun stuff. Like those were the formative music years for me. And then shortly after that, maybe into high school, I started listening to more metal
Mm-hmm.
or metal adjacent, I guess, music. I was listening to like new metal and stuff. And then kind of after that ended, I had a friend who showed me like Cradle of Filth
Mm-hmm.
and Cannibal Corpse, I think. Like God, I want to say those are the first two bands that really like set it off for me where I'm like, oh, I like extreme metal. And then obviously the guitar playing kind of followed and I just started looking around for metal bands to play with at that
Mm-hmm.
point. And yeah, just that I've been a metalhead ever since.
There's something weird. I feel like I don't know if it's genetic. I don't know what it is, but like my sons, when
Mm-hmm.
they hear down-tuned, heavy distorted guitars, they have the same reaction that I had when I first heard it, and it was like, "Oh yeah, that's
They
what's
make the
up."
stink face.
Yeah, they're like, "Uh-huh, yeah." Like we're the listeners know this, but like we're like a big like country music house. That's how I grew up.
Huh?
I grew up with country. I love country music. Oh, I have Willie Nelson on my shirt. Shocking. But like, oh, and a Waylon Jennings hat. So yeah, it's a big deal to us here, and it metal and like more extreme music for some reason like just never crossed my radar till I was, I don't know, maybe 12 or so. And
Okay.
all the new metal stuff like was my entry point to that. I was like, oh, what's this? How do you make a guitar sound like that? I've never heard Dad's guitar sound like that.
Right.
and
Yeah.
and then like that really grabbed me, and then it just kind of, to a point, obviously, like the more extreme it got, basically I kind of stopped at like deathcore,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
is fairly in there.
Uh-huh.
I was just so into it, and it was so, I think it was because it was so different than anything
Sure.
I'd ever heard before. But
Yeah.
now that I have kids and I will like show them some of this stuff, they're like, oh, I like that, Dad. And they're like not into country. They're always like, Mom, we
Yeah.
don't want to listen to country. And I'm like, now, sons, there's time for both. And they're like, we don't want to listen to that. We want to listen to,
Yeah, sure.
insert
I
band
mean, I
here.
think there's like, I think with country a little bit, it's just a different vibe, right? And I think that, especially, when you're younger, you have like more like energy. You know what I mean? More, you're wired a little bit differently, and so maybe that's why it's easier to align with more kind of aggressive music, because I think it kind of aligns with that sort of energy. Um, but yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's like I say that, and my son he's 9. He's been exposed to all the music that I listen to, and the funny thing is like what sticks with him is Van Halen and
Okay.
Judas Priest. Like he's just really into like 80s metal, I don't know, but it's cool, I'm really glad that because I never, tried to push that on him or anything. It's just he picked it up over time and then eventually started asking me, like, Dad, can you put in Van Halen? Like I say put in like that's still a thing. It's like, Dad, can you ask, ask your phone to play Van Halen?
Right.
But the point is, yeah, that's what he latched onto for whatever reason. And man, it's so cool. It's so cool, like watching your kids' musical taste sort of develop, and then it kind of inspires me sometimes because I'm like, I'll listen to it more intently. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. I'm like, oh, why is he interested in this? And then I listen to it a little bit deeper, and then I'm like, it gives me like a deeper appreciation for it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for all the negatives that come with streaming, I
Mhm.
think one of the major positives about it is the fact that I was going to say kids, but really it applies to everyone. It's that we don't have to, like, there is some romanticism of like diving through record bins and like searching for stuff. I do like doing that stuff, and I still go and do it sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's not how I discover music anymore.
Sure.
Used to be,
Yeah.
of course.
Well, it
And
was hard to discover music.
it was. Well, even
Like the process might have been cool, and like I do agree with romanticizing the intention of listening to music, right? Like I
Mhm.
bought this $20 album. I'm gonna read the liner notes. I'm gonna sit down and listen to the whole thing. And even like listening to old albums, maybe if you grew up with streaming and you aren't as familiar with that medium, it's weird to go back and listen to old albums now, but you hear it very distinctly where albums have a side A and a side B because that's where you flip the tape over, so
Yep.
they kind of crescendo and then they go down, and then the side B is like, nah, all the hits are on side A mostly, and side B is like, most people are going to listen to side B. Like it was a thing back then, and it's just, I agree with the intention of it, but you're absolutely right. Discovering music, you had to read the liner notes. You had to figure out like what bands these bands, came up with, and like it was definitely a different era. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Well, what I was saying is, it's so cool is, my kids didn't know who Ozzy Osbourne was until
Hmm.
when he passed. R.I.P. We all felt that hit, and I was like, guys, I realize I've done you a disservice, and we've never listened to Ozzy Osbourne, and now I had such a proud dad moment the other day. We were leaving jujitsu, and Vincent was like, "Hey, Dad, can we listen to War Pigs?" I was like, "Oh, we can. We can listen to War Pigs."
Yeah, that's very cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
but the fact is, like, even back then, it's like, oh, you've never listened to Ozzy Osbourne. Let me get my CD book out. Zzz.
Yeah.
Let's see, it's in here somewhere. I don't know, where it's just like, hey, Siri, play War Pigs by Black Sabbath. And it's like, just starts
Boom, it's
going.
on.
That's beautiful. That's like, honestly, really, really cool, because
It
I
is.
think that is what is helping everyone, but especially the younger generations. They don't have this compartmentalization that like I grew up with. So to
Uh-huh.
me, it was like, if you were into punk rock, that was my thing. I was into punk rock. Well, you're not supposed to listen to country. You're not supposed to listen to metal. You're not supposed to listen to pop. And I was like, but actually, I like all of those things.
Yeah.
You're like, what do you mean? What do you mean I can't listen to all this stuff? You tell me I can't listen to Michael Jackson?
Yeah,
Like,
right. Yeah,
like
I totally hear you on that, and especially getting into metal when I did, it was like it's weird because when when I started being in a band more seriously, and then getting involved in the music scene more, um, it's weird how many musicians you meet that like that are metalheads, but they rarely listen to metal. You know what I mean? It's like,
mhm.
well, that's what I do, and so I like to listen to other stuff when I'm not doing that.
I actually
You
feel
know?
like that's more common in metal than it is in other genres of rock.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know, but I know it is very common in metal. And when I initially got into it, it felt like kind of the opposite. Like metalheads were just about they don't really want to, they don't want to hear what's going on the pop charts. They don't want to, expose themselves to that. And I mean, you do see some of that now. I mean, to be 100% honest with you, I don't really. I guess I don't really like pay much attention to music culture as much as I did,
Mhm.
back then. The most exposure to music culture that I have is like through YouTube, so I'm sure that's like kind of skewed. It's like a lens that I'm looking at it through.
Sure.
But yeah, it seemed like back then it was a little bit more, I hate using the term gatekeeping, but it was like a little bit like that. Like it was more actually I think the better term, the way that I would use to describe it, is less homogenized.
Yeah.
Like you definitely had your own clicks, and to that point too, I think like even music scenes back then were less homogenized,
Mhm.
if you know what I mean. Like I had this great discussion with my friend the other day, and we were talking about, we started talking about the new Deftones album, and then we just kind of veered off into like how um pre MySpace era music scenes were really like they all had their kind of distinct sounds, and then once the MySpace era came in, they all started to kind of merge, and they
Mhm.
all started to like kind of take pieces from each other, and it was no longer like, oh, that sounds like Florida death metal, or that sounds like Sacramento thrash. Like some of that, but I mean, when you say Florida death metal, I think like a lot of people know what you're talking about. When you
Sure.
say
Yeah.
Sacramento thrash, and it just doesn't seem like that's nearly as common anymore. It seems like a lot of things are more homogenized now.
Yeah, I think especially when it comes to regions, I think the regions matter a lot less than they used to across the
Yes.
board. It used to be like, oh, this guy, he's from East Texas, or this person's from
Yeah.
Florida, and oh, it sounds like it. And I
Yeah.
think there's obviously influences in like the lyrical content and different things, and I'm not saying that the regions don't matter, but they kind of don't. I mean, like
Not
I'm,
as much as they used to.
I guess, I mean, even back then, like MySpace era is probably an accurate like inflection point there, because
I think
I'm
so.
all of a sudden listening to like Swedish bands. I probably wouldn't
Yeah.
have listened to Swedish bands before that, right? It's not
Yeah.
a thing. But
Uh-huh.
that had a distinct sound and had a distinct thing going on, and the Florida death metal sound and like all that stuff was like converging. But to me, I was so new to like finding extreme metal that like it was all kind of like not overwhelming, but I wasn't really listening and thinking about where they were from or what they were doing. It was more like, I like this a lot. And then if I really liked it a lot, I'd dive in and learn all about that band. But I didn't think about it from the like perspective of this scene is informing this sound. Because I wasn't like experienced enough to know that even mattered.
No, totally. And I think back to that liner note thing, it's like I didn't think about that at the time either. It was just like, oh, the liner notes is where you find
I love the liner notes.
Yeah, dude, and that's how you discover like your band, that hadn't broke yet, that hadn't like wasn't on MTV, and just you had to hunt for that album. You had to like go to the obscure record shop to find that album. Man, that was cool. If you like scavenger hunting, that was it was not as convenient, but it was a cool era for music. But back to the liner note thing, if you really think about what the liner notes are and finding those bands, you're finding other bands that are in the scene that these bands were in for the most part, or that had played, like maybe jumped from like the East Coast scene and done an East Coast tour and been in Florida, but really hadn't made it big yet, just done some DIY touring or whatever. And maybe that's why, in part, those liner notes were so effective, because if like I like this band that has this sound that's from this scene, I'll like other flavors from that scene because they all kind of share this, they all share like a through line, like of their overall sound. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The liner notes were big for discovery, and also just seeing in music videos and at shows, just seeing what T-shirts people were wearing.
Yeah.
I can't believe how much impact that has on even today that still happens for me. Like that's how I discovered Car Bomb, was somebody was wearing a Car Bomb shirt, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny. What's that? I got it. That sounds interesting." And now I'm like, Greg's amazing.
It's effective advertising, man. I mean, I can think, I remember like getting into death metal, and then you would see like go to metal shows or whatever, and you would see like whoever had the most extreme or brutal shirt. It's like, oh, I have to check out that band.
Yeah, of course.
Dude, that shirt's like crazy. It's got like torn apart bodies on it and everything. Like, this is badass. I want to check that out. Yeah, definitely. And maybe that's not as effective now, but I think it's always like somewhat effective. I mean, walking billboard.
And if you like the band's like artistic eyeball for their merch, this isn't 100% accurate, but if you like it, there's a chance you like their other artistic output too, if it like it's kind of in the same vein. Not every time.
Yeah, that's a good point. As long as the band has like they're consistent in their theming, I guess. Right? Like, you could probably pick that, like a band that's really consistent in its themes, or they were. I don't really keep up with them anymore, but in my opinion, it's like Behemoth.
Yeah,
because it's like they had, it's, you can look at a Behemoth shirt and kind of get an idea of like what the music sounds like, Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, I agree. And like again, back to that Cradle of Filth thing. I mean, say what you want about Cradle of Filth, and I know like they've had controversy or whatever recently, but it's like 90s Cradle of Filth, man, is like, it was a very unique thing. And it was very extreme. It was like very outside of what was culturally popular.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It was like it was kind of funny because it was the kids that liked Korn. A lot of them also listened to Cradle of Filth. And I was always like, this doesn't line up, though.
Yeah, it's a weird gateway, but I guess you made it. Maybe it's like back to that shirt that you're going to like Hot Topic to buy the Korn shirt, and you're like, what is this? Like,
oh, yeah. That happened too, for sure. Or I'd see the shirt at Hot Topic or the sticker or whatever, and then read about it in AP or Revolver or something, and then
right.
And then for me, this was a huge gateway to music for me, and I wish that it was still as cool as it used to be. It actually doesn't exist at all now. I would literally ride my bike to Fred Meyer, and they had a big electronics section for a regular like supermarket, and in the early 2000s, they started having a thing where you could scan the barcode and listen to 30 seconds of it.
Yeah.
I spent an unreal amount of time in there scanning albums that I thought looked cool or I'd heard about from somewhere else. And I'm still kind of surprised, like how much, like there was like Fat Record stuff there. There was like all like not like super, super underground, but we're talking about a very mainstream supermarket. I know Pacific Northwest people are the only ones that know what Fred Meyer is, but it's Kroger. It's Kroger. Yeah. It's like, so you're finding bands at Kroger, basically.
Yeah, right. No, totally. I mean, Yeah, and it would vary definitely from store to store too, because I remember distinctly, there would be like Fred Meyer's where it's like, dude, they always had a good selection of underground stuff, and they only had, it's very small. It's like one disc from this band, one disc from this
Yeah.
band, maybe like, and it's in the back corner. Like you had to know where to go to look for it. But it's like they would have one store that like really, bought their stuff like that. And then, being here in Portland, I think it's like, um, if you wanted anything really and you wanted to like explore, there was Everyday Music.
Everyday
Everyday
music's
Music was
awesome.
always the spot to go because they always had like just such a huge variety of
They
stuff.
still do. They're
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
I know. I haven't been there in forever though, because it's like, music just changed so much. I'm glad they're still around.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's definitely one to go check out. But there's the Everyday Music, and then the Second Avenue Records.
Yeah.
And they always had like the cool. I think I still have a shirt, a Cradle of Filth shirt. Go figure. That I bought from Second Avenue Records, and it's just, it's like, a little bit of it's like just waxing nostalgic about like, oh, how cool things used to be, but there's a feeling of walking into a real record store
Hmm.
that cares about the music that they're putting in those bins, and you're not being bombarded with like all the top 20 hits right up front. You're walking in and it's like, it's almost like inviting you to come in and dig for something special,
Yeah.
and yeah, they haven't. It's while modern music discovery is very convenient, and like, the algorithms have gotten very good, like
Hmm.
recommending things. I feel like, yeah, there's just they haven't quite figured out how to capture that feeling of like the hunt for something, and then when you get that thing, it's like animalistic. It's like you hunted for something, and then you got this thing, and it's like so special to you, and I'm sure you relate to this too, but it's like when that would happen, when I would find one of those albums, I would listen to that thing until I literally couldn't,
Oh
until it
yeah.
physically would not play anymore.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
And I miss consuming music like that sometimes.
Yeah. It's a weird thing that like just doesn't really happen. And then you think about it, and this probably does happen for some artists where, man, System of a Down's Toxicity did not leave my middle school Walkman for the entire year, like at
No,
all.
same.
like,
Yeah,
like,
that was a big one.
and I just went back and re-listened to that for the first time in a few years. I was like, this holds up. This is
Yeah,
great. Listen to
yeah,
Deer Dance, everybody. It's shockingly relevant right now.
yeah, yeah,
But I was like, how many streams would that have been out, for them? uh,
yeah. And
like,
just the
I'm sure
the
they did better for album sales because they did, but
right.
it makes one wonder.
Yeah, they were on TRL.
Yeah,
I'm sure they were selling albums, but
yeah.
yeah, just the whole industry, it was so different back then, and it's just the way you discovered. I mean, I feel like it was deeper but not as wide. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Whereas now it's like it's almost too much. Like you just be bombarded with things, and like, oh, you like this? Well, there's a dozen other things that sound almost identical to it. And back then things were even in production. You listen to like production on old albums, and it's like it's all pretty unique.
Hmm.
No one was using the same presets and the same samples and that wasn't happening. They were going in and like, your engineer and your producers were just capturing the best that they could make this band sound. And yeah, I think all of those things sort of like made it a little magic,
Yeah,
if you know. And
yeah.
and like some of that gets lost in the game of mass production
Mhm.
that we're playing now. But different times, I guess.
So that leads into a very gear-y topic, I suppose.
Sure.
Excuse me. A lot of people will talk about production on modern records, and I think they have a point. And they'll be like, "Oh, it all sounds the same because everybody's using the same samples," and there
Hmm.
is some truth to that. And then one of the pushbacks I hear is, "Well, everyone was using the same amps back then." I was like, "This is the thing, though. Even if
Hmm.
they were using the same exact amp, maybe
Hmm.
literally the same literal amplifier. I don't mean the
Yeah.
same model, the same actual amp in the
Oh yeah, like
studio."
the studio's amplifier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's just the mic placement's going to be millimeters different, even if you think it's quote unquote exactly the same. It's going to be
Mm.
slightly different.
Yeah,
Like
it's impossible.
maybe you've got the amp tilted a little bit different in the room. Maybe you're in a different
Hmm.
room. Maybe like
Yeah.
whatever. Now, let alone like if you're using a completely different amplifier, even if it's the same model in a completely different studio running into completely different output. Some people will say, well, they're using all the same equipment, so it kind of
Hmm.
sounded the same back then too. And I was like, no,
No, not really.
no, it's not the same, and it's not the same argument with the plugins and stuff. And I've grown to really appreciate those. I'm Captain Tube Amp man over here, but
It's the convenience thing, you know.
it's
They're convenient and they
and
sound great.
they sound great.
Yeah.
But if you're literally using the exact same thing in a digital file, it
Mhm.
is exactly the same.
Right.
Your
Yeah,
playing is
exactly.
going to be different, and there will be differences, but it isn't even minutia different. It's ones and
Yeah.
zeros exactly the same. Uh,
Yes, that is
uh,
correct. Yeah, yeah. I would say, you know, to that point too, it's like if you remember, like when Killswitch Engage first started getting big, everyone wanted to go to Adam D.
yep.
Why did everyone want to go to Adam D? Because it sounded, the records he put out sounded so good, and
Hmm.
everyone wanted to go there, and they loved the way it sounded. And not everyone who went to Adam D sounded the same. He was just really good at making good sounding records.
Yeah.
And the thing that, you know, and I mean, you could put other producers in there as well, but that's the one that really stands out to me specifically as a guitar player, because it's just like those guitar tones on those albums were great. And I love his philosophy on recording is just like, no, just do a good job. Just get a good take,
Hmm.
get a good amp, get a good cab, get a good microphone, mic it up correctly, and just get a good performance. Like if you have those key elements, then things are going to sound good. You know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
feel like a lot of what happens now with music, and I would say that maybe this is why it sounds more same-ish, is everything is everything goes through this like processing engine, and it's all quantized perfectly to a grid. It's all sample replaced, and while none of that stuff is bad on its own, I think it's like a lot of things. Like if when you're looking at art, right? Art's in my mind not supposed to be perfect, you know?
Hmm.
And you can, you know, if you take all these tools to make your art this perfect thing, it kind of like loses some of its meaning, or like some of its human emotion that's put into it, you know? And I think that that's what happens more often with music, is like everything's pitch corrected, everything's put quantum, and it's like, yeah, this sounds fantastic. This sounds great. It sounds perfect, but it sounds a little too perfect. You know what I
Sounds
mean?
a little
Like,
lifeless, right?
yeah, and the worst is like, you know, when you hear a record and you're like, this sounds amazing, and then you see a band live and you're like, they don't sound like that. Like this band does
Right.
not sound like, they're not tight, they don't sound good. And I'm not saying that like that's a common occurrence, but that is one of the negative side effects that comes with this, is like what you're getting is intentionally produced to be this like perfect representation of this band versus like the albums that stand out in my mind as like these just punishing records that still hold up to this day, that really just like captured the essence of bands, is like the first Suicide Silence album. If you
Hmm.
go listen to that album, it's like that's them playing that album, and it's just, it comes through like a band playing that album, you know. um and you know, I wonder, it's like if you had gone through and done like modern production on that album, like would it lose some of that, you know what I mean? Like would it sound just more samey,
I
because it's
think
like that's
you're probably gonna miss like with that album in particular. I think you're gonna miss some of the, and this is, I'm not trying to say that like it's mistakes necessarily, but
yeah.
like I think nowadays where there's a tendency to be like, oh, you like scrape the pick a little bit weird there. Let's try it again. It's not that
Yeah.
clean, you know. Like,
Right.
oh, you know, maybe you pulled off a little too soon or a little too early, like a little too late, whatever. Let's maybe give that one more shot. And whereas if
Yeah.
like, especially if you're playing all together as a band, trying to get that one take,
Yeah.
if everything else is pretty much dialed, but you kind of made a little flubber there, and it's like, well, I'll probably just leave that in. You know,
Right.
it sounds pretty good. It still,
Yeah, and
and I think that's the human element that is sort
yeah.
of getting eroded in some of that.
No, absolutely. I
Mhm.
totally agree with that.
Mhm.
And that's, you know, I hate like it feels kind of like an old man yelling at cloud take sometimes, but it's just, I don't know, in music a lot more, and I'm guilty of it too. I think like we're all guilty of doing these like production hacks because it is convenient, you know. But if if I'm listening to a major release, like I want to actually hear the band, you know.
Mhm.
I don't know, and it feels like something is lost when you do that. Like I remember the first time I ever went in to a studio with my band. We didn't play to a click at the time, and then we realized like how much tempo variation there are in our songs.
Oh yeah.
And but it felt right, you know what I mean? No one in the audience was ever like, this song is like fluctuating in beats per minute. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
no one ever said that to us. I don't think anyone ever noticed it. And then when we went into the studio, we actually like had to map out the metronome, you know, to go up and down. And then I see a lot of like stuff that I come across now, whether it's things I'm working on or just like music that friends send me or whatever it is, where like it's just one BPM the whole song, and it just feels different. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
like it doesn't feel like a band wrote this anymore. It feels like a guy wrote this sitting at his computer,
Yeah.
and there's
Which
nothing wrong with
which
that.
you did.
Yeah, exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. I think technology is great, and I think it's a good thing, but it's different. You know, it's just inherently different. Um, is one better than the other one? I don't really know. I think I prefer one over the other, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, and I think they do, it does resonate in a lot of ways because I think about like a lot of the records like from my favorite modern producers would be like anything that Will Putney touches basically.
Hmm.
I'm like, listen to this. This is ridiculous. It's so good. It's still pretty tight, but it still feels like a band, you
Hmm.
know? And the guitar tones, like, get out of town. That guy can
Yeah.
record a guitar. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think that's a good producer right there, right? Is like
Mhm.
someone who knows what the tools are and how to use them, but use them tastefully rather than I'm just going to use the tools to the max
Yeah.
with
Quantize.
disregard. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. With disregard to the art form itself, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Hmm. And I think some of this should be like we're talking about a lot of the production stuff. I think a lot of this should probably. I'm not. I feel like maybe people think that we're being a little bit overly negative on the modern approach. I'm not. I do this. Like
Yeah.
that when I'm writing and playing, I'm also sitting here in front of a computer by myself playing to a drum track. Like
Yeah.
I'm
No,
doing the same
totally.
thing. Um, but I think if you're like you're in a band and you got a project that you're trying to do and you want to try to maybe shift that a little bit, you need to be aware of these things. And maybe back in
Hmm.
the day, I know I didn't. I knew I'd go in and hit guitar and guy record it, and then it sound like this. Like that's all I knew. Like I didn't know what was going on,
Sure,
and
sure.
and I think maybe it should be on the band a little bit. If you're like, oh, I want to have that classic Kill Switch vibe, it's like, well, how'd they do that? You don't have to do it exactly like they did it,
Well, they were
but
really good.
yeah, they're really,
They're
really,
just
really
really
good,
good.
really,
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
And it's just, man, like when you've seen a band live where you just like your jaw drops and you're in awe of how good it's like, why take that and why just like try to, you know, compartmentalize and just make it like, like just let that be what it is, you
Yeah.
know? Do your best job to capture that
I did.
organically and just let people have it.
I did get to see Kill Switch back in like that day. Still to this day, I get goosebumps thinking about it. It was insane. I was like, they are so good, so good, just mind blowing. But yeah, we got a little bit sidetracked down a rabbit hole I wasn't fully expecting. But here we are.
Yeah. There we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But segueing a little bit, so
Mhm.
your recording process, like
Sure.
obviously it's probably a little different for doing YouTube videos than it is
Oh, yeah.
for
Yeah.
doing band stuff. But
Sure.
what does that look like for you? I see you have one of my favorite pieces of equipment in screen right now, which is the Boss TAE there.
Oh my God. Yeah. That
It's
thing's
the
made my life so much easier.
I love it so
Oh,
much. I
it's
I
just,
love it.
it makes playing amps convenient enough for me to like want to get out and play amps, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And turn them up to like a master volume level where it's like you're like, oh, that's what this amp sounds like, because so many of my amps, it's like I've never really turned it up loud, you know, I've never heard what it sounds like when I'm like cooking the power tubes.
Yes.
And then you do and you're like, oh, this is quite a bit different. And especially some amps in particular way more different, but so it's awesome for that. And then just the fact um, that if I mic something up for like a demo or something, and I accidentally kick the microphone, which happens, you
Hmm.
know, like working in a small space, sometimes kick a microphone. I have the DI running out of it as like a safety
Yes,
net. Yeah.
100%.
So it's
That's
just like it's made my workflow so much better.
I do the same thing. In fact, I consider it like just absolutely one of the best pieces of gear ever. I've got
Hmm.
the original and the core,
Hmm.
and the core is great for most of the things I use it for. Honestly, like if that would be the one I'd recommend to most people,
Yeah.
but it makes everything so nice, and I truly think it is the best of both worlds. You get to
Yeah.
have the digital experience and the tube amp experience. You can
Mm.
mic cabs like you're talking about and run the DIs out so you can play with other cabs later, so you get to do
Yep.
both. Like,
No, totally. Yeah, and just like the amps that don't have effects loops, like, oh,
yep.
cool, now I have an effects loop, like it's just
Or a master
it.
volume, for
Or
example.
yeah, all master. Yeah, yeah, right. Exactly. That's a big one. Um, yeah, it really does. It just, I think that if you are a tube amp enthusiast, it's such a good piece of gear to have.
Yeah.
At least like is some sort of load box.
Yeah.
Like I would always recommend, like, before you get like too many amps, maybe invest in a load box too, just so you can really experience it in a different way. But this one specifically, I think is a really good one.
It's
It's
my
it's the one.
favorite one. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
I
tried a few, but like I'm not too deep on it. But when I was looking around at all of them, I was just, this had the things that I wanted, and I bought it. Like, I didn't work with Boss or anything
yeah.
for it, so yeah.
Yeah, it can do so much. Yeah, I specifically I got a 1978 orange OR 80 here recently,
Okay. Oh,
um,
nice.
and it's glorious. But boy, I mean, it had no master volume, but you want it. You want to crank it. The sound
Yeah,
you're looking for is it almost cranked or fully cranked, and it
sure,
will
sure.
level the building at that
Yeah,
volume.
yeah, it's like the
So,
old Marshalls, man. I mean, I kind of got into those more recently with especially with one of my local friends. Shout out to Bryce Van Hoosen. But yeah, like you realize with those older Marshalls, like, no, that's how they got those sounds. Of like, they crank those things, and like you can't stand next to them while
mhm.
they're at that level without serious ear protection. It's too loud. But something like this, again, yeah, it's perfect for it, because it's like, oh,
Mhm.
cool, I can experience that, but like at a reasonable volume.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in LA a few weeks ago. It was like a month ago now. And through the podcast, I've gotten to be buddies with Tracy Guns from LA Guns, which is
Oh, that's cool.
really weird to little Blake, to like 14-year-old
Yeah,
Blake, who, like, one of my earliest hard rock experiences was pulling an LA Guns tape out at my friend's house and going, "What is this?" Like,
sure,
uh,
yeah.
I was like, this is weird, but awesome. Such a cool guy. But he's making amps now. And
Oh,
one of his things is he wanted to bring like a 1978 Marshall that people could actually afford to buy and kick around and be all hand wired and stuff. And he doesn't make a ton of them. He makes like a few, 10 a year, 20 a year, something like that.
okay.
But I got to play it there, and I'd never played an amp like that where I had to be where I didn't have to worry about the volume. I was always in a music store or something. And it's like, okay, we'll be somewhat respectful to everybody here.
Yeah.
But there, I was like, can we open it up? He's like, yeah, let's go. And I was playing it. I was like, oh, this is where high gain comes from.
Yep.
This is where this, like, I know that the circuit's different, but like, this is
Yeah.
where the spirit of the 5150 and the Mesa Boogies and all this stuff, I now understand. Like, it's not quite there. It's not quite
No,
that thick and heavy, but
I
this is
think
where it
it's.
comes from.
Yeah, it was probably. I mean, I imagine, and I've done a lot of. I made that video, the Marshall and Metal video, a while back, and so like I was reading a lot about it and really like diving into the lore on it, and just kind of the overall sense that I got from everything that I read into was, it's kind of like that you have these parallel things going on, this happenstance where it's like guitar players like wanted to be louder because PA sucked at the
Mm-hmm.
time. Like, you had to rely on your guitar amp, and when you're playing big venues with screaming kids, like, you needed a loud amp. So there's this thing of like, I need to be louder, and it's growing in parallel with like, oh, well, the louder I go, the more distorted it gets, and that actually sounds kind of cool. Well, how can I get more distortion? And these things are going at the same time, and then you get to, essentially, you get to Van Halen.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
that's
Yes.
basically what happened. And then and then from there, it seems like it just kind of exploded with people modifying things, changing circuits. How do I get high gain without having to turn my amp up loud? You start getting the master volumes in there. But it's a very interesting history. But yeah, I think that for people who haven't or don't have the opportunity to experience, one of those older amplifiers at deafening levels. It really is. It's pretty unique, and it's pretty cool.
I would encourage anybody. Obviously, they're expensive, they're finicky.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of reasons not to get one. But I would implore anybody who's interested to try to find a store that'll let you play it for 10 seconds.
Totally,
and really play it.
Yes,
because
agree.
I think anybody who's actually done that for an extended period of time, you can't sit there with a straight face and tell me modeling's exactly the same. Like, it's good. It's good.
I mean, look, even like just at face value, okay. And this is as someone who relies on modeling. I use an Axe FX Live. It's convenient. The convenience outweighs what to me is like the cool factor, like the aesthetic. But just plugging in and playing, like dialing it in, feeling the knobs, it behaving differently. You know what I mean? It's not an algorithm that's just responding the same every time, or like maybe responding with like slight variations to what you're playing every time. This is like I hate using the word organic because I feel like it's like it's just been beaten to death. But it is like a more give and take relationship with an amplifier, especially a cranked amplifier, and the way that it responds to your playing, and like it responds like the dialing. When you watch these older bands that had these single channel amplifiers, and they're clean and their distorted tones are just them rolling back the volume knob. It's like I feel like, I don't know, maybe I just have a deeper appreciation for it now, than I used to. I feel like I used to be a little bit more like, but then you experience it and you're like, oh, I get it now.
Well, I think for me, I'm really semi-nostalgic, but also like a cranked Tiny Terror is part of what like made me like part of why I do this. Because I'd never played a tube amp I'd played a Champ, which was cool, but it's kind of a different thing. Yeah. But I was playing solid state crates and just stuff that I had, and that's all fine and great. But when I first plugged into a Tiny Terror and maxed everything out in a store and just played a couple chords, I was like, oh, this is a different thing than what I've been doing. And this was way pre-modeling, being popular and good.
Yeah. And you know what? And to that point too, it's like, it's not like one's better than the other. They're just different things. And I think people get defensive about modeling because the inherent, thing to happen is always like, because it is modeling tube amplifiers, right? So it's like you're always going to compare it to a tube amplifier and be like, well, does this sound as good? And so people want to defend that, right? They're like, it's just as good as this and that. It's like, it's just a different tool.
Yeah.
And it's okay that it's different. And it's like, and it's totally okay to like enjoy both things, and for one to make sense at a certain time and then one to make sense at another time. And just for me personally, especially, back to the tube amp expander, it's like getting that thing and being like, oh man, I can like really play my tube amps now in a way that's unique. Like I unless I'm sitting at my computer doing something at the computer, I still use plugins a lot just for the convenience factor of that.
100%.
But it's like, if I'm just going to sit down and play my guitar, I'm 100% going to plug into an amp. It's just more enjoyable for me personally. So, take that for what it's worth.
Right. But that said, the modeling has gotten really good. I know I'm always like, oh, Captain Tube Amp over here. That's my thing. But I mean, there's no denying some of this stuff. And I love the Mixwave plugins so much. I think they do such a good job with those, like mind-blowingly good. How good some of this stuff is. So I'm pro all of it. Like I'm shocked how much I like plugins and things these days. It's convenient, but also sometimes it's just like necessary, especially for I gotta do a pedal demo. Do I need to spend an hour and a half plus miking up cabs? Or can I just like get a good clean sound and it'll show you exactly what this pedal's gonna do the same way?
There's, it's like I said, man, different tools, different jobs, pros and cons to each, and digital stuff does sound incredible. And I would say that like it's the barrier to entry is much lower.
Oh yeah,
with digital gear too, for a lot of things. Like some things take a little bit more work and a little bit more effort. But yeah, it's just like they sound pretty good out of the box. Yeah, most of them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, their default settings half the time are really good. Like, just like, oh, default. Oh,
Yep.
that sounds pretty good.
Yep.
L
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a great time. I think I say this every year,
Hmm.
but it's like, man, what a great time to be a guitar player it is.
Hmm.
We got so much stuff. I
We're
can't even
spoiled.
believe it.
We're super spoiled. Yeah, and it's overwhelming. It's like new things come out every week, and I do get this like feedback where it's like, and I understand it. If I was a new guitar player right now, I think instead of the stress being like, what do I buy that's going to sound good because there aren't available options and I have no way to figure it out?
Hmm.
It's the exact opposite problem where it's like, there's too much stuff. It all sounds good. And there's way too much information about all of it,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, I get messages from people and I feel bad a lot of times because like people want me to just like, hey, just like one-on-one, like they'll message me on Instagram or whatever, like, hey, just one-on-one, tell me like, what's the best thing? What should I get? And I'm just like, I can never answer the question because I'm like, I don't know you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what your situation is. And there's a tool for every job out there. There's like a
Hmm.
dozen tools for every job out there. And it's like, you know, it, it it's, it's weird because it's, for people like us who grew up and it's like, you were lucky if you got an advertisement with a paragraph in a magazine that talked about what this thing did and why it's better, like why it's good for you or how it fits your situation.
Right.
Now you have like, it's just overwhelming. Like you have to do all this like research to figure it out. You know what I mean? And you have to wade through the obscurity of like vague sort of YouTube sponsorship disclosures as well. Like that's a
Hmm.
whole other caveat to this thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, I guitar players now are spoiled. It's definitely the best time to be a guitar player. But I totally empathize with people who are coming into it now as a hobby and just being like, I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Like
I don't
it's too
know.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have like kind of a canned answer for like new players
Hmm.
often. I find that like I feel very confident in being like, okay, I don't even, regardless of what style of music you're into, regardless of anything, if you get a Boss Katana, that's a
Yeah,
great place to start for a new player.
it
You
is.
can,
That's what I say
yeah,
too.
yeah, you can find any amount. Like, there's something in there that'll work for the style of music you like, no matter what that is.
Yep.
And if you get like the Katana 50, you can
Mhm.
probably even play it with a band. Like,
Yeah. No, for
or
sure.
you can run it direct into your interface if that's your thing you want to do. You can do
Yeah,
that
you could
too.
do. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
They really thought that thing out. I mean, I always tell people to get the head. I didn't
Mhm.
even realize this until because I've owned every generation, and I didn't realize this until the second generation of Katana. But the head actually has speakers inside, like it's a combo
Yes.
amp, and
Yeah.
it's like I was like, oh wow, like that's just another reason because it's small, it's portable. It'll
Mhm.
power a 4x12 cabinet if you want to play with a band. You can use it as an interface. Like it's so versatile and it's so it'll last
Relatively
you.
affordable, relatively
Yeah,
speaking. Yeah. Like,
exactly. And it'll last you through your, guitar playing career or whatever. Probably until you decide like, hey, this isn't for me anymore, and you have a better idea of what you like. You
yeah.
know? Um, yeah, every now and then I'll get pushback on that answer too, though. It's like, oh well, you know, like if something happens to your Boss Katana, it's harder to repair than like a amp or whatever. But it's like,
Oh,
yeah, but that's like we're getting
yes.
into the weeds on things. I can't assume that that's gonna happen to you. you know,
First of all, they hold up pretty well. First of all, second,
it's been my experience.
yeah.
Yes.
Second of all, they're depending on the model, they're cheap enough and available used. It's like, are you really going
Mhm.
to pay a tech the
Yeah.
bench fee to fix it
Right.
anyway? Or are you just going to get another one? I don't like that idea of like throwaway stuff, but
Yeah.
the reality is, like, for somebody starting out, the repairability of something that's unlikely to break anyway doesn't
Mhm.
matter all that much. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Hmm.
I don't think you can base your decision on that. You know what I mean? Like
If
it's
it was
just,
known to break, that'd be one
of
thing.
course,
Then
yeah,
just
but I
don't
don't
get
think
it.
they are.
No, they're not.
It's yeah. I mean, like I said, everyone I've owned. Granted, I'm not using it every day, and I don't. Mine's. I actually just put mine into storage the other day because I haven't used it in a while. But like I'm on the third gen. Like I bought all these too. You know what I mean? I
Oh,
didn't.
my Line 6 Spider 2 still works. What do you
Oh
like?
yeah.
I know that's not
There
the
you go.
same thing, but it's the same concept. It still
Yeah,
works.
it's the same. It's heart is in the same place. I think maybe
Yeah.
just different execution.
Yeah.
Uh, no, totally. Again back to that thing. There's good choices out there now, and I think that's a solid one for
Mhm.
beginners. I mean, if I think to the first amp that I started out with is like it was a combo amp. It did like two things, and it was not loud enough to play with a drummer. And whatever. I still like that's what I learned guitar on, and it worked, and it was solid. But if I would have had the opportunity to have a Boss Katana, like, sign me up.
Yeah.
you
Oh
know?
man. Yeah. All the flavors in there. But I can't
Yeah.
complain too much. I started out fairly solidly. I still have it. Crate XTR 120.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it was because my dad got it for me. He played guitar, but he's definitely not a gearhead. He mostly played acoustic. But he was like,
Right.
it was the most watts per dollar that I could afford. So that's what I got.
Yeah. Yeah. Watts per dollar, man. I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
No, totally. I had like a Crate GX15. That was my first amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the exact one anymore, but I do have a Crate GX15 now.
Nice.
And every now and then I will get it out just to remind myself of how like fortunate I am.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember this now. And I remember upgrading to like the this is the times, but I remember upgrading to the GX30 and being
Yeah.
like, dude, this is gonna be so much louder. And it's like not.
Hey, it's double the loud. Has
Yeah, I'm
to
like,
be.
I don't know how they justified putting that number on there. I'm sure there's like some back end trickery that they're doing, like, oh well, it's technically this amount of watts, but it was about this. It was a bigger amp that was about the same volume.
Yeah.
It had a better bass response. It was like not keeping up with the drummer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, if we would have had YouTube back then and Boss Katanas, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Could have gone down a completely different trajectory.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that if I had started, and I think this is happening a little bit with the younger generation, the digital stuff is so good that they're like, well, why would I spend all that money to have one sound or one style of amp? Why would I spend $2,000 on an old amp? What? That doesn't make any sense. And I get why it does. I get why it doesn't make sense. No, I understand. It doesn't make any sense, but trust me, it does.
Yeah. I always compare this, and I think it's a pretty good analogy, but I always compare it to cars, right? It's like, if you're a dude who, you are just concerned about getting to work, then, maybe you don't need to go buy a 65 Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's probably not the best option for you, because guess what? The brakes don't work so great. It has terrible gas mileage. It's going to be hard finding parts for it anymore. Like, it's going to require a considerable amount more effort on your part to make it functioning. Versus if you're driving like a Prius, where it's very low maintenance, the gas mileage is incredible, and like it'll last a long, long, long time without having problems, right? So it's kind of like that with like, modelers and whatever. Now it's like, okay, well, yeah, you could get something that does the job and will last you a long time with like no maintenance or whatever. But dude, I mean, is there anything as cool as a 65 Mustang? I don't know, and that's why people collect them. That's why I have mountains of amplifiers back here. It's not because it's like
practical.
Yeah, it's not practical at all. I mean, I always make the joke. There's a weird thing that and I know it doesn't just happen to me. I see it happen a lot of times to other people who, do what I do or do it adjacently, where like people always ask you like, how do you afford all that gear or whatever? Like, I just went out and just bought it all in one day. It's like, no, this is years and years and years worth of impractical choices that I made because I just love it. I love collecting things, and like, guitar gear being one of them. Yeah, some people are into like Pokemon cards or whatever, and maybe, I don't know, but I would assume that's like a little bit of a cheaper collection hobby to have.
I know just enough about that to be dangerous. It can be if you're like somebody who just goes and buys the packs of cards and like, cool, we're gonna break these open too. It's probably cheaper than what we do. But if you're a collector of the Charizards, no, that's a very, very expensive hobby.
Yeah, see, so hobbies can get expensive quickly depending on your collection.
It would like we would like just be for a couple first edition shadowless Charizards, be like, hey, like I don't need a house. What am I doing with that? That's how
I've got my cards. I'm good.
Yeah, that's how expensive those things can get. It's really insane.
Yeah, I can imagine. Especially like in the '90s with like the Marvel Comics craze and everything. I mean, I'm sure like you remember that, but it's like that a very similar thing where it's like those collections can get out of hand real quick.
Yep.
Um, yeah, any collection can get out of hand real quick. But my point is like if it's something that you're really about and you love it, you just over a long period of time, you just happen to collect things and you trade things, you trade up, and you're like, maybe you bought something and you sell it for a little bit more money down the road because like, it doesn't make as much sense anymore, and I can take that money and I can get a cooler thing, that's
Yep.
like a little bit more unique and a deal on it right now. I mean, I think all of us that are into this hobby like do that, what I mean? And
Hmm.
some of us are just a little bit more vocal or focused on it, but when people see all this gear and stuff, yeah, they just get the impression that it's like, oh, you must be rich. It's like, no, no, I've just been doing this a long time.
I'm not
And
rich. I'm irresponsible. That's a different thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
that's the line.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, just when you're into that, I mean, I wonder if car guys get the same thing, like someone sees
Well,
like a garage with like multiple old cars and they're like, man, you must be rich. How do you afford all these? And it's like, I built this thing, like a lot of time and sweat equity.
I am a car guy as well. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay, perfect.
yes, all of the things I like, I can't afford. So I have to find out a way to figure it out. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when you were using that analogy, I'm like, this works perfectly because my daily driver, 2012 Toyota Corolla.
Perfect.
My fun car that I built with my dad, 1969 Camaro that leaves the garage,
Oh my God, great. Yeah,
occasionally just for
right.
fun and only
But
for fun. That's
right.
that's
But tell me this, and I think this applies to tube amps too, is it's like, is it more fun to sit behind the wheel of your Corolla and rev the engine
it's not
or your
fun at
Camaro?
all to rev the engine, and the Corolla's like ween ween. But you know what's great? I love the Corolla because
Yeah.
it's a fantastic car, low maintenance, starts every time. It's wonderful. I think it's a fantastic machine
Yeah.
for what
It
it
does.
does.
Exactly. It does that job really, really well.
Yep.
But when you want to have fun,
Yeah.
you get out the Camaro. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
get
exactly.
the Camaro out. 383 stroker, 450 or so horse. Nothing crazy, but not healthy. And just go like yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's something primal about that, man. And I think it's the same with like, again, for people who haven't experienced, when you crank a tube amplifier, it's kind of like
It's similar.
revving an engine. It's like, yeah,
Mhm.
there's this like primal instinct that gets triggered, and you're just like, oh, caveman make fire.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, me man. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Taylor, we have gotten to the almost to the hour mark here, and I got a couple classic questions I like to wrap this up on. But before I do that, I like to give the guests a chance to take the floor. You're talking to a few thousand people right now. What do you want? What do you want to tell them? You can shout out your grandma, whatever you want to do. The floor is yours.
Oh man. Shout things out. Okay. I guess there's things that I probably should promote. I'm terrible at this, but I have a YouTube channel. It's just my name, Taylor Danley. I do all sorts of guitar nerdery there. So if you're a hobbyist who likes guitar stuff, especially metal, then you might like my channel.
It's a great channel, people. Go check it out.
Thank you very much. And I have a company called Obsidian Audio. We right now we released a pedal last year. It is kind of my my idealized version of a boost for high gain amplifiers.
Ooh, nice.
I figured out what I liked, and I worked with an engineer. I guess it'd like be what you'd call a engineer. I don't know. He's just a great guy, but he was a pedal builder, and told him, hey, these are the things I really want in a pedal. Can we do it? And he made this pedal that I feel like is just exactly what I wanted in a boost pedal. So hopefully other people like that as well. But it's the Devil Obsidian Audio. We have a preamp pedal actually in the works right now, due to release here soon. I have the prototype of it. So if you're into metal, into guitar playing, you like analog gear, that's the place for it.
Cool. And for all the audio people, the listeners, the viewers, this goes on so many platforms now. I don't know where people are. Where the words are, that's where the links are. Wherever you're consuming this content at.
Look in the description.
Yeah, exactly. So go check those out for sure. It's really cool stuff. So that's why I brought him on. didn't bring him on just to talk about Boss Katanas. We
could probably fill a whole podcast with that, though.
Yeah, we could. I'm sure we could. All right, final questions, and keeping it in the Boss world. First one, what is your favorite Boss pedal? You know, they don't sponsor this podcast, everybody. I'm just I just really like that company. Okay.
They just make good stuff, man. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I've never worked with Boss once, funny enough, doing what I do. I always get asked that question. It's like every Boss thing you ever see on my channel, I bought myself at full price or used. Okay. God, man. I kind of have to split this up into categories, and I hate doing that. I'm sorry. But I think that the most utility thing that I've ever used pedal wise from Boss was the NS2. And as lame of an answer as that is, it's like that was the gate for the longest time. But in terms of like pedals that I really enjoy, I like the Metal Zone a lot. I know it gets a lot of hate, but it's like I think it's a good pedal. I think that when utilized properly, it can be very tasteful. I know HM2 is probably a popular answer as well, but I've just never been a chainsaw guy. You know, I try to get along with it every now and then. There's things that I've heard it used on that I really enjoy, but you know, I think I'm sticking with the Metal Zone.
I like the HM2 a lot, but I don't like the chainsaw setting. I don't use it on that. I don't think it sounds good on that setting. I think it was very specific with all the other gear that was being used. It worked for that record. And it doesn't work on almost anything else.
It's definitely one of those things you have to be knowledgeable on to get it to work for you. Because like I've tried to do it and I'm just like, what is going on here? Like this is not working for me the same way that I've heard it work for other bands. And I'm sure, you know, user error is in part, you know, to blame for that. But I think that also, yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like you got to use it a little bit sparingly and tastefully, you know?
Yeah. Let's see if I can reach it. I'm not sure. Hold on. This is great audio. Everyone wants to hear me slowly back away. Oh, no, it must be somewhere else. I was going to show you my prized all murdered out Metal Zone. But
nice.
It's buried somewhere. I'll find it later.
I'll see it eventually. I'll see it in person one of these days.
Yeah. One of the Boss guys heard I wanted one and hooked it up. Aaron, you're the man.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I was like, I finally got one. This is so cool. It's just a Metal Zone with black print.
Hey man, sometimes that's all a pedal needs to just elevate it to the next level.
Yeah. I don't see them very often, but I got one. I'm happy man. That's a good answer. All right, final question. And this will get extra nerdy because you're local.
Okay.
What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh God. Okay, so actually this one's really easy for me, but I don't know that they necessarily exist in Portland anymore. Champ's Pizza is probably my favorite. And I think they changed their name.
Okay.
So that's the one that I really like. I know there's a lot of like there's so many kind of cool niche pizza places in Portland, but
a lot of great bougie ones that I could go down the rabbit hole of, but you know.
Yeah, definitely. But I like Champs. It's good handmade dough. That's a big thing for me because you know when you eat like chain store pizza things, I don't know about you, but I get bloated. No, thank you on that. But you know they have like minimal ingredients, just good quality. Yeah, I feel like there's an ad for Champs, but that's definitely my answer on that one.
Champs Pizza. All right, is there a specific pie you like to get at Champs?
Oh man, they have a lot of good ones. I like the. I mean, okay, so I like their bacon, chicken, whatever Alfredo pizza. That one's really good.
Okay.
And then they also do these things that are like, God, they're really bizarre. I can't think of what the things. It's like pizza adjacent or something. It's like a deep dish pizza. But they have this one that has like, it's like sweet and savory. Like it's got like bacon and jelly on it or something. Like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah. And I'm the only one in my family that will eat. It's like ricotta and like raspberry jam or something.
Oh, that sounds marvelous.
Right? Yeah. I like it too. I'll order one and then I get the thing that's like, I'm the only one that will eat it. And I'm just like, oh man. Maybe a little bit too much, but God, it's a good one.
Oh, I got to try it. So I did a quick Google while you were saying that. Looks like it's the new name is City Pizza.
Perfect.
So
there you go.
Yeah, it says formerly Champs.
There you go.
I think that's right. There's a Champ Pizza in Vancouver, but I'm guessing you're talking about this one here in Milwaukee.
Yes.
All right.
That's the one.
Yeah. They got City Pizza PDX, formerly Champs, it says right here on Google. And then City Pizza 96 PDX, which is the one in Milwaukee, I believe. So, yeah.
There you go.
That's
the one.
I got to give it a try. Never had it.
They do it. They deliver too. It's great.
Oh, it looks great. Yeah. Well,
you have to go stand in line at a cart or whatever. Like, yeah. Can you see the thing I'm talking about there? Like the little savory deep dish thing.
I'm just seeing what's on the top of their homepage, and it looks like a more classic kind of situation. But yeah. All right. Well, I have a mission. I got to try that.
Definitely check that out.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll slide over to Patreon and see what kind of nonsense we can get into. Does that work for you?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. All right, everybody. For Taylor, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones.